imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole? Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of election, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. So I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. You're going to get to hear me go off tonight. I am in an epically pissed off mood about a few things, including a bunch of pussy cops, and I will just say it like it is, a bunch of pussy cops who hide behind their guns and their little toy badges and their little costumes, executing a guy's dog and arresting him for the crime of videotaping them while they're out doing something out in the middle of the street. And it's not a crime. Supreme Court's already ruled it's not a crime to videotape police officers and that people have the right to do it. So he was videotaping them. They came to detain him, and his dog jumped out of the car because all the dog saw was this guy, his owner, his loved one, being manhandled, and it jumped out of the window in his defense, and it didn't attack any of the police officers, but it was pissed at them. It was letting them know. And the pussy cops, instead of trying to calm the dog down or maybe letting the guy go because he didn't do anything to begin with, and they're the ones that escalated the situation, they pulled their guns out and shot the dog dead. Right there. Killed the guy's dog. For what? For what? I'm sure he'll be charged with resisting and all this other BS. For what? For what? Because you can, because you're a cop and you have a gun and a badge? I'm so tired of that friggin' mentality in this country. We're the police. We have to make sure our officers get home at the end of the day. Well, then maybe your officer should look for a new job. Maybe instead of growing up wanting to be a cop who subjugates other people, how about maybe he grows up and does something good? Maybe do something more useful like a construction worker or a sanitation worker. At least what they do is an honest job. They deserve to be paid more and get good benefits. I have no respect for none. I have no respect for police officers anymore. None. Zilch. And you people have done it to yourselves. And now, to the good ones out there that say, oh, well, that's not fair because there's still good cops out there. Really? Prove it. Start to police your own ranks or I won't believe it. And neither will anybody else. So nobody's got respect for anybody. And you know what? That police department, they're getting hammered with phone calls right now. I'm going to give you their phone number when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Maybe it's my bad for getting emotionally charged up over this, but I've had it. I'm a dog owner, and I got to tell you, I'm honestly glad that my golden retriever passed away a month ago. very peacefully in a very controlled situation where, you know, she lived to the full extent of her life, and I'm glad that it went that way, because if my dog had gone the way of this guy's dog, I would lose it. I would snap. You'd be reading about me in the paper, and I don't know what would happen, but I would just lose it. I'm not even going to make random, idle, retarded threats or anything like that. I know I would lose my mind. I would absolutely lose my effing mind. And I don't have children, so to me, my animals are my kids, okay? And many people feel that way. And even if they don't feel that way, the animal is still a beloved part of the family, even if they do have children. So, and people still do feel like they are somewhat a child to them. So to execute someone's child in front of them, or if they're not their child, to execute someone's family member, we'll say, in front of them is horrific. So they're traumatizing this guy. They took a loved one away from him and the rest of his family, and they don't care, because who gives a shit? It's just a dog. Yeah, we're the cops. No, you're scum. You're absolute scum, and you're cowards, by the way, because I don't want to hear, well, you know, the officers could have gotten attacked and they were afraid. If an officer gets attacked, then you do something, okay? But first of all, you guys are the ones that provoked the situation to begin with. You're obviously the one that provoked the situation. You went after the guy for filming. If you had just left the guy alone and let him do his constitutionally protected, I'll repeat that again, constitutionally protected, because it's not granted, but it's constitutionally protected. If he had been left alone, the dog would be still alive, this guy wouldn't be in jail, but nope, can't do that, can you? So I think everybody should at least call up and bitch and moan to the Hawthorne police, because it's the city of Hawthorne and I believe I want to get it correct so I can get the exact state correct, because I know there's a couple cities named Hawthorne. But I'm going to give out the phone number for I have a few of the phone numbers. I'm going to give them out because I want people to call them up and let them know how you feel. Although I know for a fact that they've already been bombarded. I spoke to a few people that I know that they called up themselves, and they said that when they spoke to the guy at the desk, he just sounds defeated and totally, you know. The guy was just obviously he had been hammered all day long. So yeah, it's Hawthorne, California. Okay, I just want to make sure I gave you the correct state. Hawthorne, California. City of Hawthorne in California. And here is, let me give you their dispatch number is 310-973-1802. I'm assuming that's the front desk there, where you'll get the dispatcher, who's like the secretary. Or you'll probably get a duty sergeant. Actually, the dispatchers aren't like the secretary. The duty sergeant's more like the secretary. So you'll probably get him, and then it'll go to dispatch or whatever. But 310-973-1802. 310-973-1802. Call them up and let them know how you feel. Here's another one. Here's another phone number. Hawthorne PD, 310-349-2700. Actually, that sounds more like the front desk because it's a 2700 number. Usually they have the 00 from a front desk. So this is probably the better one to call. 310-349-2700. 310-349-2700. I'll say that one more time. 310-349-2700. Call them up and let them know how you feel about them executing a dog. I know that the person that I spoke to that called them up, the conversation was the person that was on the other side of the phone hadn't even seen the video, and he was trying to defend the police action, saying, well, you don't know the full story and blah, 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 blah. And he was asked, well, did you see the video? And he responded, no, I didn't. And the person that I know that called did see the video. So, okay, epic fail on the part of the police department. The least you could do is have the person answering the phone at least have an idea of what he's talking about, so he doesn't look like a complete buffoon, and you don't look like complete buffoons either. Although the actions of your officers already took care of things like that. There really isn't any coming back from the videotape. If you go see the video, it's on the IntelliHub. I have it up on Federal Jack. I'm sure just go on YouTube and look, cops shoot Hawthorne, police shoot dog. It'll come up. People are infuriated. And they're hammering the front desk area there, calling them up. And don't be stupid if you call up either. Don't call up and be morons and be like, yeah, you pigs, yeah, this is the reason why people shoot you, blah, but don't be an a-hole like that, because all you're going to do is feed into that mentality that the police already have of the us versus them crap, which is what the powers that shouldn't be want. It's a very well orchestrated chess game. We need to break out of that mentality, okay? And if you call up, be civilized. And I'm not saying don't take them to task for what they did. No, take them to task, but don't call up yelling obscenities and ad hominems and stuff, because they're just going to hang up on you. And people have the right to be pissed, but if you really want to get, if you just want to call up and be like, you're a jerk off, you'll probably get that out and then they'll hang up on you. So go for it if that's what you want. But that you're not going to prove a point, and you're just going to feed into the us versus them mentality. I would at least call them up. I'm sure it's just, even calling them up and bitching is going to, in their eyes, is going to feed into it. But at least don't give them what they expect. Don't play into that crap. Because you're just giving them ammo. You see, these people are effing psychotic. It's it's us versus them. But call up and bitch them out and tell them, whatever. Tell them how you feel about them shooting people's dogs, and tell them how you feel about actually instigating the whole situation. Because they could say to you, well, the dog jumped out of the car. Well, if you guys hadn't come down the street and effed with the guy for no reason at all and just left the guy alone, the dog wouldn't have jumped out of the car and you wouldn't have felt threatened, or your little officer wouldn't have felt threatened. It's just absolutely insane, and it's stupid. The situation was escalated by them in the first place. Guaranteed, the police chief says it is going to say it's justified, and I don't care how many phone calls they get. I'm willing to bet they'll just close ranks and they'll protect the officers that did it, and they'll do an investigation and say it was justified, and then I'm sure the police union will back them up and blah 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 blah. And by the way, I'm not against. I'm not like promoting that people run out in the streets and attack the cops, because that just, again, that plays into what the powers that shouldn't be want. They want it to be us versus them. They want to literally get people out in the streets, get people so riled up. That's why the police are trained differently now. See, older cops know how to defuse a situation. First of all, they shouldn't have walked up on the guy and screwed with him with his camera anyway. They should have just left him alone. You can't videotape here, sir. You can't tell people that. Supreme Court already ruled on this, so be gone, pissant with a badge. Go back to doing your civic duties. Go back to directing traffic, which is what you're good at. Okay? But no, they get put up on a pedestal, and cops can do no wrong, and they need special powers. They're special people. No, they're not. They're human beings that abuse their authority left and right. And lately, they've been executing people's dogs at the drop of a hat. To the point where a dog is out in its own front yard, in a fence, and the cops hop the fence looking for somebody, not even sure if the person's in the yard. They just hop the fence anyway, even if there's beware of dog signs. And when the dog runs up to them because the cop's on their property, they execute the dog on the property. And then they'll pull the gun on the homeowner and tell the homeowner, stay the F back or I'll shoot you, get on the ground, blah, blah, blah. You just shot the guy's dog. Let me tell you something. There's places in this country, if you did that, you hopped on someone's yard and shot their dog, you wouldn't make it off back over the fence. But they pick primarily inner city areas. There's cases where people that even live out in nice suburbia, they get their dog shot or whatever. But again, when they're chasing somebody, they have no respect for anybody's personal property rights. They have no respect for anybody's personal rights. They're really running through my living room, and I walk out of and I go, hey, what's going on? And you shoot me because, hey, you shouldn't have been in the living room. And there are people that'll say, well, the dog tried to attack him. According to the case where the cops jumped the fence, because this has happened numerous times, where cops jump the fence chasing somebody or looking for somebody, and they think someone's, in a house. Well, this is an area where where it's drug related, it's bad. Oh, so because it's an urban area, it's okay to hop their fences and violate their personal property because you have a costume? No, it's not. It's okay to execute their animals? No, it's not. I don't care. I don't care if someone says, well, it's the inner city, I don't care. Doesn't take away their personal rights. If that's the case, then that means I can come into your house up in like Richville with 15 or 20 acres and a 5 or 6 bedroom house. I can come up in your house. I'm going to light the carpet on fire, piss on your living room furniture, and then execute a couple of your dogs and maybe take a couple people in your family hostage. Is that fair? Can I do that? Can I come in and just completely violate your rights and your personal property and everything else and just go off the wall? No, I can't. I would go to jail if I did that. But can I do it if I have a badge and I have a nifty little costume and I say I'm here on police duties doing official things? How many times do cops actually get in trouble? Really? Because they get backed by the police unions, they get backed by the departments, and then the people are left with this rift between the people and the police. You know what would close that rift and stop this stuff? If the police turned around and started going after their own. If they said, you know what, no, that's a bad shoot. You shouldn't have shot that guy's dog. First of all, you guys shouldn't have even got involved and gone after him. See, a good police chief would say, you know what? Unfortunately, you guys escalated the situation. The Supreme Court's already ruled that people can videotape. You shouldn't have chased the guy. You saw he had a dog. Common sense would tell you if you escalate, his dog will probably try to defend the owner, and you'll have to kill the dog. So why bring it to that next level? Because that's what they're trained to do. They're not trained conflict resolution anymore. And I don't care. You know what? Email me if you're out there, cops. Go ahead, v4911@gmail.com, and tell me. I would love to see proof that you guys are taught common sense, because you're not. Sorry, but you're not. Back in the day, police were taught how to conflict resolution and common sense. And I don't give a shit if you take a class on it or not. It's not being taught nowadays. They're amped up on fear. These younger cops, they're all amped up on fear. They're told everybody out there wants to kill you, hates you, and hates cops, which is total BS. But then they'll use, what happens is a situation like this reinforces that idea even in that person's head. Even if it's not used, but to do so, it will, because people are generally going to be pissed off at the police for what they did. And then they're going to see that anger, and they're going to say, yeah, well, you see, they always say people hate cops. You see, this is proof of it. And then other cops will say, yeah, you see, they hate us, blah, 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 blah. And it feeds into the BS. If you guys would just police your own, and when people like the cops that escalated it, they should be held accountable. See, if they were held accountable for escalating the situation to where it happened, guess what would happen in that area? Tensions would go down. People would actually start to maybe have a little bit of faith back in the police department. Hey, you know what? These cops did something. It was bad, but the police department cleaned it up. They not covered it up. Literally cleaned up, get rid of them, hold them accountable, however they do it, whatever. And, make sure that it trains the officers in the future how to avoid a situation like this. They do not do that. And I don't care if you tell me they do. They used to do stuff like that, but they don't anymore. He'll get an attaboy pat in the back. I don't care how much bad press this brings. Unless people keep hammering, and maybe something will, at least in that department will happen. But it'll go away once the heat and the pressure from the press go away. They know that it won't stay on forever. It's just a waiting game. The way to make that rift close and to heal these wounds is to start to weed out the bad cops and actually hold them accountable. And I'm talking to the police departments when I say that. But, that comes with an evolution of your thinking. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I mean it. I mean what I said. The only way to repair this rift is for people to, I guess the expression cooler heads need to prevail. But on both sides. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to spiral out of control. And I know that cops are taught, oh my God, if a dog comes at you, it's you or the dog. You do what you got to do. You take that animal out. But are you guys not taught that you shouldn't set the situation up to become that? See, a lot of police officers, and maybe not all of them, but a lot of them have this attitude that it's okay to kill dogs because they're just a freaking dog. Who cares? So to them, someone's dog is target practice because it's not theirs. Maybe they don't have a dog, or maybe they do have a dog, but they just don't care because it's not their dog. But they would care if someone kicked in their door and shot their dog dead in their front, in the living room or in the front hallway there, or if they shot the dog dead in the front yard. Or if they were walking down the street and they were videotaping something randomly and a bunch of idiots with costumes came up and, started to screw with them and shot their dog. If you were a police officer, you'd be mad at that. Oh, but I'm sure that wouldn't happen to you, right? But what if the shoe was on the other foot? Just put yourself in the other person's shoes for a minute. What about that then? It's different. It's amazing. The powers that shouldn't be want to create a rift. They need this country to tear itself apart from the inside. Why do you think they push racial divide all the time? Why do you think MSNBC and CNN? CNN yesterday did a piece. It's ironic that I went off on the rant I went off about racism last night and how it's used to divide us and everything else. It's ironic that I went off on that because last night, and I didn't know this until after I'd gotten off air, but CNN, or maybe not ironic, because people use that word incorrectly, maybe more synchronistic, but and unbeknownst to me, CNN aired a piece about racism yesterday, and basically there was talk of white people don't experience racism at all, and really come down to Miami-Dade County, and if you're white, you'll experience all the racism you could enjoy. It's called down here they call it reverse racism, I guess, but if you can go into certain like Cuban sections of Miami or even pretty much anywhere in Miami, if you go into like a restaurant or a store, and if everybody speaks Spanish and you're the only white person in there, you will experience a little bit of racism. They look at you differently. They treat you differently. I know because my wife is Spanish. So if I go in by myself to a place, I'm just the dirty gringo with tattoos. But if I go in with her, oh, I'm the husband of a beautiful Latina woman. It's different. Doesn't matter if I'm a gringo now. Now I'm one of the, it's okay because I'm with her. I've literally experienced this in a store in like a 1 week period where the people knew me going in there for a very long time. And when I would go in by myself, they would treat me like crap. But if I went in with her, I was treated differently. So you know what? It happens all over the place. Do I go home and cry and whine about it? No. That's their problem. Does it piss me off? Yeah. But so don't say that white people don't experience racism. And so anyway, I deal with it differently. But I mean, if it was worse, if it was more physical violence, then I would have to deal with it that way. But the point is, yes, there's racism flung every which way, but loose. So every nationality, every race in every country, has derogatory terms. There's I forget what it's called. I think it's called the Racial Slur Database. And it's literally a database of racial slurs from every country in the world. And you'd be surprised what other countries say about us or about other people. So it's there. Anyway, they use it to divide and conquer. They get people arguing about race or sexuality or, you get divided over whether or not you like reading or if you like this or that. Any little thing that they can use to take people, put them in a tiny little minority, marginalize them, and label them, and then you can go after them. That's how you do. You can't take over this country and bring the country down to its knees by just directly going at the people all at once. So you have to segment society up into little different pieces, and then once it's all segmented, then you go after each little segment. And the best way to go after each segment is to get the other pieces, the other segments of society, to attack the segment that you want to go after. And you denounce that segment for whatever reason. And you get the other morons to believe it and go after them with you. Just like the Nazis did. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I have a little surprise for you, unexpected surprise, I may add. Coming back, I'm going to finish up this segment here, but coming back from the other side of the break, when we come back into the final segment of the first hour, joining me for the rest of the broadcast, or as long as he'd like, but he can hang out for the rest of the first segment there, or the first hour, which will only be one segment, but then if he'd like, he can come on for hour number 2 in total, but I know he's going to come on for a little while anyway. my good friend Kenneth Webb, a.k.a. Change the Channel. He's going to come out and hang out with us. He wants to go off on a few things as well. He'd like to vent. Lord knows I love having him on, and I love his opinion. Ken's just an all-around great guy. So I'm excited to be doing an impromptu show with him today. So looking forward to that. Anyway, what I'm going to do really quick is, because I'm going to bring up I did in the show promo, I had said that I'm going to talk about the Russian troop thing, which I'm going to get into. In fact, I'm going to wait until Ken's on because I want to get his opinion about it. Because not only do I want to pick his brain as a researcher, but he's also a veteran, so I'd also like to get both sides of that, especially being that it's 4th of July. But in the spirit of 4th of July, and I've played this once before, I'm going to play you something really quick. It is a bunch of celebritards, but a few years ago, back when Bush was the evil president and everybody still hated him and was against big government and government spying before they liked it and it was chic and cool to do, a bunch of actors, I guess Mel Gibson or whoever, rounded them up and they read the Declaration of Independence out loud. Now, aside from the fact of some of the voices of the people that you will undoubtedly recognize as being idiot supporters of this, new regime that's in power here, just put that aside for a second and listen to the words that they are speaking. The Declaration of Independence was actually written to be enunciated out loud. It wasn't written to be read off of a piece of paper. It was written to be read aloud because back in the day, not a lot of people could read, and most people got their news from the town crier. He would come and read things in the town square. He would sometimes stand up on a little pedestal or a stool or whatever, maybe sometimes a stone wall, whatever, and read aloud whatever was to be read aloud in the public square. And everybody would gather around and listen. Hence the term the town crier. So, anyway, I want to play for you the Declaration of Independence. Listen to the words very carefully and tell me if it sounds like anything that is going on today. Listen carefully. Here it is, the Declaration of Independence.
When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them.
A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government.
Laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes.
And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed.
But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government.
The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states.
To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them.
He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable only to tyrants.
He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people.
He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands.
He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers.
He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures.
He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation.
For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us.
For protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states.
For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent.
For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses,
for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies.
For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments.
For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us.
He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
He is, at this time, transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation.
He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands.
He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us.
We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here.
We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity.
And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence.
They, too, have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled,
appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare
that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states.
That they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown.
And that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved.
And that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce,
and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do.
And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence,
we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen? The list of abuses, usurpations against the people of this country and our freedoms and our rights. Sound familiar? Almost sounded like you were listening to a list being read off of what's been going on today. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? And by the way, it doesn't mean that we need to rise up and kill everything and, Jefferson even wrote about that, before the revolution got to the point it was, they tried everything they could. And they said, look, they even told King George, basically, they were willing to tell him that, if you basically just apologize, and it wasn't that simple, but, if you apologize and you admit that, some wrongdoing, that you want, you back off and let us be free, won't have an issue. He pushed the issue. Well, that's what we're trying to do now. We're trying to prevent what could be, another bloody revolution. But that's what the powers that shouldn't be want. They want people to rise up because that's what they have their FEMA camps for and their foreign troops. Oh, yeah, we're going to get into foreign troops tonight, too. But I thought maybe people needed to hear the Declaration of Independence again. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Read aloud as it should be heard. Go back and listen to it in the archives and let the words resonate in your mind, except for the Indian savage part. That thing was a little bit out of hand. The rest of it, good. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me for the rest of the broadcast tonight is my good friend Kenneth Webb, a.k.a. Change the Channel. Check his radio show out, ladies and gentlemen. He does a hell of a broadcast. Ken, welcome back, brother.
Hey, thanks for letting me on, man, at the last minute. I was sitting here wanting to, I was like, man, I got to get something off my chest. Just about anything. I was listening to your show. Actually, me and the guest that I had on my show today, where he was talking about your show during the broadcast, and we were talking, I was like, and then I was on the late hour, and I came in here, I was like, Popeye's still on. And I started listening to the broadcast, and I started thinking, like, oh, I want to call in on the show and make some comments about what you were talking about. And then I was like, I gotta contact him and see.
I'm glad you wanted to come on, man. I have no qualms about having you on the show and picking your brain about all this stuff. Well, let's start because we got an hour or two to get into everything else with the Russian troops. I want to pick your brain about the cops killing this dog, escalating this whole situation to begin with. They didn't even need to do what they did. They escalated it to the point where the dog hopped out of the car and then they shot the dog dead. What's your thoughts on this whole craziness?
That was just pure meanness. And, they didn't have to do that. I mean, these cops are trained in multiple ways to handle a situation. Then they shot the dog. That was just pure out being, they were being turds, basically. And they did that. And if it was my dog that I had for a long time, oh, man, I'm telling you, I don't know. It would have been bigger headlines, I guarantee it, because I would have lost it. You're going to shoot my dog, that's like shooting my kid or my mama or a relative in my family, for what? And for what? What did they shoot the dog for? And what happened in the end? I mean, this is like, oh, come on, guys. These people are getting out of hand and doing stupid stuff. Shooting a poor dog. I mean, oh, man. And the people get a lawsuit against the police station, even if they win and get some money or something like that. No, the dog is gone. That individual, irreplaceable being that will never be again, that used to be family, used to be friend, just as anything else. And then they shot it just out of spite, basically.
I'd lose my mind. Dude, I would lose it. My dogs are my kids. And I would absolutely, I would view it as you just shot my child. And you can only imagine how somebody would react.
Exactly. Would the dog... Would that specific dog have your back? Yes. And why shouldn't you have its back, man? Oh God, it just makes me mad. And then it shows the level of brutality by the police, because it was out of spite. Could they have pulled out a taser and tased the dog or something like that? Yes, they could have, but they didn't. They shot the dog just out of spite. And then that's it. That's the thing. This is where they've taken it to the level of getting people that ain't got nothing to do with anything, and then intervening in their lives and doing something and just throwing their hands to the air like, well, that's just what happened. And that just ain't right.
Right, and then their chief or captain or whoever, and the police union will come out and back them. It was a clean shooting. That dog, the video clearly shows that they were in danger. Yeah. Guess what? Maybe the video doesn't show you, but it shows the rest of the world that they clearly escalated the situation.
They were the threat.
Isn't it their job to de-escalate a situation? I mean, when I was a kid, that's the way the cops were. The cops were there to de-escalate. They were also called peace officers still when I was a kid.
Yep. Yeah, peace officers. Yeah, these cops could have did something different, but no, they did that because that's what they're gonna do from now on. They're gonna shoot anything that moves, and then it was a bad bust, it was wrong intel on the situation. Whoops, throw the hands in the air. Whoops, and it's all cool. Whoops, I just lost trillions of dollars. We don't know where it was spent. Rumsfeld said, whoops.
Exactly. Weapons of mass destruction. We invaded another country. But hey, well, you know what? The initial reasons we gave you were bullshit, but that's okay. We'll come up with new ones. And if they don't sell, we'll just keep coming up with new ones to sell you the whole invasion because you know someone that died and it's an emotional attachment for you. Ugh. I guess, and now that attitude, they see, the problem is, just like those cops that screwed with that kid that was open carrying in PA, and he said, why don't you file the Constitution? And they said, we will when the president does. Well, low-level scumbags see the high-level scumbags doing stuff and not getting in trouble, and they go, well, if they're going to do it, so am I. And yep. And the scumbaggery just continues, dude. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just like the kid. The kid, they had the Second Amendment T-shirt on, NRA T-shirt on or whatever. He didn't break any rules of that school. He didn't break any kind of dress codes of any sorts, but they take it among themselves on the low level from these top people like Eric Withholder. He's saying he wants to brainwash people into not liking guns, and that's exactly what they did to low-level teachers who, the kid's not breaking any rules, so therefore, but their opinion is going to dictate, take your shirt off, don't do what I say, you're in trouble, take it to the principal, next thing you know, that cat's doing the same thing, calling the police, and the police officers come and just continue to go along with it, on up the chain of command. It's insane.
It's pathetic, first of all, that teachers and principals need to call the cops on students. When I was a kid, there was, the only time they called call the cops on a student as if the cop or if the student actually assaulted the principal or something. It's just teacher. It's the wussy state. You call the cops for everything. We're gonna get into that the other side. Exactly. Ugh, it's just disgusting, dude. It irritates the crap out of me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're going to break. We're back in 59 short seconds. Don't go anywhere. Ken's going to hang out for the entirety of hour number 2. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. It is July 2nd, 2013. And for the remainder of hour number 2, I am joined by my surprise guest co-host, because he does a radio show here, so if he's hanging out with me, he's not a guest, he's a co-host with me here. So my special guest co-host tonight, Mr. Kenneth Webb, a.k.a. Change the Channel. Kenneth, welcome back for hour number 2, brother.
All right on. Thanks for having me, brother.
And he's also got a huge YouTube channel. Ken's one of the old school YouTubers. He remembers things that I remember back in the day when YouTube was a little bit more free and less corporate. And his channel, you've probably seen his channel even if you don't realize it. If you've ever seen an Alex Jones video, like a full-length movie, you've probably seen it on his channel, even if you didn't realize it. The ones with like 2 bazillion hits, yeah, those are his.
Actually, this week, I started breaking out stuff from back in the day, from Warehouse America days, and kind of sharing it with people out there from some of my older stuff. And they're like, oh, man, that rocks. And I was like, oh, no, I was just showing you, like, kind of trying to show, like, the difference between then and now, the different stuff that I do. But people really loved even the old stuff still to this day from 2006. They totally digging it.
Because it never gets old, man. It really doesn't. It's just, we might look back on it and go, oh my God. Like, I listened to some of my older shows from like 2.5 years ago, and I cringe. I'm like, ooh, God, my audio is horrible, or what was I,
Right, I know that's what I was always openly admitting. I'm like, I'm just doing this right now to try to, I'm using my life and like a blog and use a vlog and then like putting whatever artistic abilities or any kind of music that I can put out or anybody else's artwork and trying to put it out there. And also in the meantime, teaching myself video editing and the audio, the whole production of doing a video. And I'm still learning this very day in 2013 and even back then, though, I was like, and I was putting every little bit of effects that you could possibly put in, every visual effects, sound effects, and I was just like, I'd overdo it and stuff. But people still really dig it, even to this day.
They do. Well, like I said, a lot of that stuff is timeless. I like your Debunk This series. It's still, I even though it's a little older now, I still think.
No, it's not going to be that old, brother. I guarantee you, because as I've always said, I've always know that I will continue on with that. Sometimes you got to get it really good, and it's got to really hit, because you need
even your old
backing you up.
Even the older episodes you did, they're still like on point. You could, because there's still people. It's not like everybody is awake and they're like, yeah, we know everything. Ken's right. We don't need to pay attention to this anymore. Oh no, contraire mon frere. Your video still serves as a slap in the face to people that are like, no, that's not what happened. Because I read from a debunking website. Okay. Right, because you read it.
Click the links, brother. Click the links.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Quick, short break. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We need somebody out there with a ton of money to make a real competitor to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Not some BS competitor. I'm not talking like Vimeo or that other crap. I'm talking like
get the message out there to people. Like, here's this spot, because that's what YouTube had. It was all of the people that really made that. It wasn't. It was all the vloggers and everything that made it, and they promised that they weren't gonna turn against the vloggers and get away from them and go corporatize, which, $6.5 billion, seemed to have did the trick on that one. You know what I'm saying? But, we need somebody that can go out there and can be able to reach everybody and let them know that that's what's happening. Here's what's going on. Here's this space where you don't have to worry about all these other things. And that end takes money. It sucks. I can't stand it. I really do. I hate money because it's nothing. You can't eat it. I mean, you can eat it if you want to. I mean, I don't know what good it's going to do you. You might burn it on the fire. But, you know, money is just crap, man.
Honestly, dude, I wish more people did stuff just because it was the right thing to do. And I'm not being like all kumbaya, you know, hugging a tree, you know, I'm not, you know, tripping on LSD, you know, running around like, you know, like someone would try, oh, you freaking hippie. Or no, I'm not trying to be anything like you try to label me or throw at me, you know, or paint a picture of me like that. It's just, you know, it's a reality. You know what I mean? Look, honestly, all of this could be, everything could be a reality, you know, just getting rid of this whole control paradigm, everything, and doing the right thing, the way people actually do things, the way people think. If it only takes a little bit of an evolution of the mind, not even a huge, big step. Everybody looks at it like it's some huge wall we have to get over, but it's not. You know, but I mean, I get right now times are tough. You know, people don't want to, if it comes to like money or whatever, people don't want to give out money or anything like that, but even what about starting your own thing? What about doing your own group? Well, I'm afraid because, you know, what happens if they come get me? Dude, they're going to come get you if you don't say anything. So, I mean, you might as well stand up and do something. If you don't do anything, it's going to snowball and get worse. And then you're going to be like, wow, we should have done something. I mean, do we need to let it go there? No. I don't really think.
No, a lot of people are scared. A lot of people are scared of that. But what they don't realize is, it's like, you know, you're not the only one going out there trying some stuff like that. Do it on your side. You know, you go to work, you got a couple hours, you're sitting there playing poker or something on the internet. You know, you could do a little research. You could put out a little bit of information. You know, I think people could always put out information. Hey, I found this. You know, and even if it wasn't right, somebody goes like, no, that wasn't right. This was this. And you prove you're wrong. Guess what? You just learned something.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, dude, either.
No, it's not. I've been found wrong a few times, and I've tried not to, and I really, really tried not to. I want to make sure whatever I'm talking about, unless I dub it as theory, this is my theory, this is my opinion, and really, you know, say that that's what I'm talking about. When I put out information, I want declassified government documents. I want to hear the words of the people and the words coming out of their mouth. Here's what they said. Here's what was written. Here's the audio tapes from the, you know, the archives, the Library of Congress, of the president talking to, you know, the Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense or anything like that. You know, here is this. Here's what they said, you know. But, you know, I always want to do it, but sometimes I am found wrong where people go like, you know, to catch me off guard. And I'm like, wow. And I am happy. You know, I'm a little humbled by it and I'm a little burnt. I'm like, dang. You know, I should have checked this out or checked that out. But at the end of the day, I don't care who they are and how much I might not dislike them or their opinions or whatever. But when they do that, I will tell them straight up, like, you know, yeah, you know, you were right. I was wrong, and I'm glad I learned something.
Yeah, but it's good because it also, you know, I mean, if you are wrong, if you have some misinformation and somebody, I've had that happen to me. I mean, I got caught once. I got bit by a website called the Daily Quran, and I knew that it was a satirical website, and for whatever reason, I quoted an article from them, and I don't know why that it didn't click into my brain at the time that when I was looking at because I already knew, like, I can't feign that, I didn't realize, you know, I didn't realize it at the time when I was reading it. I even read the website name on air, and the light bulb didn't come on in my head for whatever reason. It didn't, you know, that bridge did not, you know, open at that time. And I already knew that it was a satirical website. And then later on, when a reader pointed it out, I was like, no. I was like, I didn't do that. So I went and I looked, and luckily it was while I was still on air because I had done it right in the beginning of the broadcast. So when I got off, before I got off air, I was able to correct it, and I said, look, I made a mistake, but I owned up to it on air right away. And it's good to have that. I mean, look, you know what? It helps keep us in check. None of us, honestly, like I said that night, it just goes to show none of us are gods. None of us fly around with capes. We're all equal.
We don't want to put out bad information. We want to put out the truth. That's our intentions, is putting out the truth. So if we found out wrong, yes, we want to adjust that and make sure that people that we talk to who go out ain't just passing on some BS, you know.
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't like to go on air, and I don't want to go on air and tell people something that I don't know to be true or not, because then I would look like a jerk off if it wasn't accurate. So, I mean, I will come on and give my analysis or give my a hypothesis that maybe I've come up with of something, but if I don't know it to be fact, I won't come on and say fact. It's fact, it's fact, it's fact. I've even caught myself accidentally using the word fact once or twice when I didn't mean it, and I've gone back and I correct myself. And I have to, and I don't do it to try to be cool. I do it because that way I'm making a mental note, myself. I'm just correcting myself live in front of everybody. That's all. All right, we're going to break. I got to cut us off because the break's sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Before I forget, Hack Miami, as you all know, one of my good friends, Alex, he's been on the show before, a member of Hack Miami. Hack Miami wrote a really good article about Edward Snowden and the NSA and all the NSA spying, and it's really, it kind of lays everything out, but it cuts through the bull crap, as it were. I have it posted up on federaljack.com. It's right under Establishing the Police State and Featured Stories. Look under, it's titled Edward Snowden, Sounding the Alarm. Go check the article out and share it amongst your friends. It's really a good. It's written from a computer person, IT professional / hacker's perspective, I guess. But they, with that in mind, it's just really well written and really well sourced. It's really a good article. Otherwise, I wouldn't have reprinted it in full and actually contacted them.
What do you think about that, Popeye?
What about the whole Edward Snowden thing?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that stuff we already knew? I mean, really, I just keep coming back to it. When I first heard that about the leak, and I was just like, yeah. That's all I could think. Yeah. Okay, you know what? The NSA is, taking and storing
think
information.
He's a double agent or whatever like this.
No, I don't even really know. I mean, honestly, I don't know. In this day and age, it's 2013, man. These cats are in overdrive. They got it on cruise control. There's no telling. I mean, I will question it, but at the end of the day, I don't really know. But what I do know is that the information and the gameplay, this seems to be, it's just conflicting. We already knew that. I mean, even after the Patriot Act, it's all out there in the Patriot Act. I mean, you got to read all of the other laws that, that takes back to and changes this sentence to that sentence and all of this. But
yeah, I agree, because I said the same thing when it came out. I was like, I don't know why everybody's surprised. It's not like we haven't been telling you this.
Exactly, that's the point. It's like,
and the church hearings, dude. Back in the 70s, the NSA was opening people's mail. They were steaming people's mail open and taking the contents out and copying it and then putting it back inside the envelope.
I thought this was universally known, and then the other countries are acting like, what do you got? The France and Germany demanding answers and warns a delay of trade talks.
No, France.
What? I mean, come on, man. France and Germany, you acting like y'all ain't doing the same thing. Y'all ain't been doing the same thing. Oh, what? The NSA has been spying on you. If you didn't already know that?
Yeah, first of all, if you're the leader of a country, right? You have an entire military and your armed forces and police and all these people, you're the leader of a freaking country, and you're going to tell me you don't realize that America spies on everybody else. Really?
And that's how you can tell. The telltale is watch all the rest of the people, how they react. So France and Germany, their reaction is, oh, how dare you? I don't believe you're actually doing that. And you're like, okay, you're already showing your hand. I mean, if you acting that dumb, come on, man. Nuh-uh, there's no way. It's just like when China act appalled or Russia act appalled. And it's just like, the U.S. act appalled about some other country hacking their stuff. It's like, what? You act appalled? You're not doing the same thing to them? This is the game. Why don't these people ever tell us the damn truth?
Well, look how Russia handled it. We caught the Russian spies here a couple years ago, right? And Russia was like, yeah, so what? We have American spies over here. We trade. And that was it. There was like, no. Yeah, there was it. It was known, like, okay, you guys spy on each other. But, and come on, France. Like, you don't think the NSA is spying on you, really?
And they demand answers and warns of delay in trade talks. Oh, see, it's the grand chessboard. It's the grand chessboard. Everybody's playing the game. They're going to act like that. And I wonder if they're under control of the same people that all these U.S. politicians are control over, and it's all just kind of playing the game, and this is all a game? Or are these there's an actual divide amongst these, and they're still playing the same game, and they're still controlled by like higher powers, but they're all separated, and they're all playing for different teams.
Well, they fight amongst each other, dude, without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you'll see it, so, it'll come out, and, it's like Michael Rupert said it best. And, he's about 10 years ago, I guess now he said this. Wow, it's been a long time, but somewhere around 10 years ago he put it best. I saw a video of him. And Rupert put it best. He said, think of it like organized crime. You got the Gambinos and the Genoveses, right? Once in a while they might whack each other, a captain here or there, but when their common interest comes under attack, they come together. And that's what you have. I mean, that's what we're up against. It's organized crime. It's that simple. They're doing criminal acts, and they're organized and doing it. They're conspiring to do it. That means it's organized crime, by definition. We're going to break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. 2 segments left. Holy crap, where'd the second hour go already? Ken, I want to get your opinion on the Russian troops, or Russia, I should say, signing, I guess, an official agreement with Department of Homeland Security to provide Russian troops for emergency events like natural disasters, but even something like the Super Bowl. Could be doing security now. Russian troops on American soil. Now, everybody was called conspiracy nut jobs for the past couple of years, right? Saying that foreign troops train with the United States to come patrol streets and do gun confiscation or, martial law or whatever. And people say, oh, you guys are nuts. You're all crazy conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing retards, right? Well, now you have the Russian government openly. I notice our media is particularly silent on this, and I know that DHS hasn't put out a little loving PR notice to everybody, but Russia did, and it's legit, and it says that they've partnered up with Department of Homeland Security to provide troops to the United States. So you could possibly see Russian troops doing security pat-downs at the next Super Bowl event. How does that make you feel as a veteran? Because I know it pisses me off.
It's out there. It's out there. And the whole time, on the same note, at the same exact time, you got Russia and China doing big military operations together, right this very minute. And the biggest ones that they have ever done together. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, what is the deal? What is the deal? What is really going on here? I mean, I always feel that the Soviets, the USSR broke down, gave, sovereignty to a lot of the blocks and countries that were in the Soviet Union. Of course, they didn't get rid of Chechnya, of course, because of the oil and gas, but that's beside the point. They didn't give them up, but they gave all that back. And how they play the game, it's not over. It's not over for the elite Russians. But, what is their game? What is the Chinese game? China has been sitting back, and they've been playing the global chess game, and they're really high up on the level, if not in the number one spot as far as global economics and global domination. You look at these people, they are sitting back, and they're in every country. They've been wheeling and dealing while everybody else was taking the other warring kind of approach to the global chessboard. I mean, but you got them in Russia working together right now, holding these drills. And then, yes, you got the Russian troops that have the deal so where they can come in and run security in the United States. The whole while, you got Obama and Vladimir sitting there arguing about Snowden and all of this stuff. I mean, you got all of these different levels. It's like, what is really going on here? I mean, what is the ultimate plan? Are they really just dueling and playing the grand chessboard, or is there some kind of common ground where it's just a show for all of us? I mean, it's hard to tell, Papa. It really is. When I really think about it openly and not thinking I know exactly what's going on this global sense, because I don't, because it's always a game. It's being played. And when I sit back and I think about it and I look at all these different scenarios, these different theories of like all of these big powers that are playing in the game, who do have the military, that do have the force behind them and everything, like when they're playing it, is it all for our, for our viewing purposes, or is it they're actually playing against each other, or what's going on? Because I don't understand. Like you said, troops here on U.S. soil doing security, but then you got China and Russia doing drills right now, the biggest drills that they've ever done together. And they're running all these different operations together and all this stuff. And then you have the Snowden situation and, the stance. What do you think about all that?
Well, dude, don't forget, you also have madness going on over in Egypt and in the Middle East and with Syria and stuff. I mean, if this is what I don't get about the whole situation. It's like you said, in one breath we're partnering up with them and being their best buddies, and then in the next breath we're, go ahead, we'll start World War III, screw the Russians. So it's like either the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, which that is the case most often with the federal government, but it's still there's something up. I mean, obviously it goes to show you that there's that none of these countries are free from the grasp of these globalists or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. The puppet masters, the ones who put all the money into the government, to the decision makers, the ones who are on the facade, making the decisions for the military, the commander in chief, Vladimir or whoever it is on whichever side that's making the actual on the facade, the surface. Decisions for what military actions and what direction that there is taken, the people that pull those people's strings, the puppet masters, what is it? Are they really divided, or is it all just a thing to keep us divided, to keep maybe the puppet masters keep them divided?
Well, yeah, the people at the very top, the people at the very, very tippy top of the things, probably, I mean, the way that compartmentalization is used on us, it wouldn't surprise me if it was used on them the same way to a certain degree, and they just don't know it. They think they're above that. They think they're in the know, and they're only just one more step up, or maybe two more steps up, but there's people that are 4 or 5 steps above them, and they don't even realize it.
Right, and the people that are up don't really give a crap who wins, because they win. They're the ones that the puppet masters probably win, unless it's a kind of a.
Well, who controlled Rockefeller for all those years? I mean, now David Rockefeller is not the guy that you got to really be afraid of. It's people like his grandkids that you should be looking at, because they're the next generation.
He gets. It's just like Sunday dinner back during the day. You had the grown-ups table in one room. That's where all the grown-ups sit. Then you had the other room where the children sat. And even at the children's table, you had the oldest children got to sit at the head of each of the table. And then they got to move up as they got older to the grown-ups table. Now, David Rockefeller, he's probably in the transition of that. He's probably sitting up on somebody's lap at the big table, is the way I would see Rockefeller. I see other people who have less wealth but more power as like some of the big kingpins, because when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter about money. It doesn't matter about anything like that. It matters about power. It's about who you are. Look at Kissinger. He doesn't seem like anybody, but like his whole existence is all on power. Brzezinski, same thing. Ain't about money. It's about that power. I know everybody. I talk to everybody. Everybody listens to what I got to say. That's the only thing that matters.
Well, even those guys in their own right are puppets. You know what I mean? Like, again, like Rockefeller and all them, those guys are, I mean, Brzezinski to a certain extent still has some say, I guess, in things, but like, has anybody seen him lately? He looks like he died about 5 years ago, and death just neglected to inform him. Like, they have to put so much makeup on him. His eyes are all sunken in. He looks like crap. David Rockefeller, he's 97 or 98 years old. Dude, literally, the only thing he's mastering is not crapping on himself, because he craps into a bag, I think, now.
Now, he did his part, though. You can't take that away from him. You got to give praise where praise is due. And that turd did some messed up stuff.
Yes.
I mean, you could go down and list. I did a Bad Guys episode over on my YouTube channel. Change the channel, look up The Bad Guys, Brzezinski, and it's a whole history of Brzezinski, how he's broken every law known to man, every international law known to man. Every action that he has did by his own admission, by his own words, by his own everything that he has did, declassified documents. This guy is a turd, but people will still sit out there and go, Brzezinski was a good guy, and he's the one who won the Cold War against the Soviet Union. And I'm like, you think the Cold War has ever been over or just started with the Soviet Union? I was like, you're on the wrong page. You're on the wrong page if you thought the Cold War started with the Soviet Union. No, the Cold War has always been. There's always, as long as there's been a hot war, there's been a Cold War.
You know my favorite picture of Bin Laden is?
What?
The one with him hanging out with Brzezinski. When he was a freedom fighter.
Yes, and every decade, look at how we do these people. Oh my goodness! I mean, it's insane that people don't grasp this. It's like one decade we armed them, next decade we disarmed them. We give them money. They get to party. They get to come to the United States. Here's a recent article. They get to come to the United States, party out in D.C. And meet with the Pentagon and the CIA, etc. And then the next thing you know, they get their hookers and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, what? You know, these are the extremists that they tell us about every day. The boogeyman out there. These extremists, the Islamist extremists, and they don't even follow the rules of their own book. You know what I'm saying? They're doing drugs, partying up, snorting cocaine, got hookers, they drinking, partying, and doing all this stuff up in D.C. It's like,
I like the official excuse. The official excuse for that is, well, they were told to blend in.
No,
really? So doing blow and having sex with hookers that's blending in? Inshallah. I mean, holy crap, Jesus.
I'm telling you, brother. Anybody who says that when the words come out of their mouth, that sets them right on into a category, and it's like the dude category when anybody says that, because that's just a repeat of what you've been told to say. Because it doesn't. Yeah, exactly. I don't care. It's like Bohemian Grove, while they're just having a play, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, no, don't, do not do that. Do not sit there and take. Here's people who swear up and down that they're the Christians of the Christians. They're the cream of the crop, Christians, straight up. And no straight line Christian is going to go partake in a play or any damn thing else where you cremating care. That's hoodoo voodoo, straight up. Now, I don't care. Now, all these people that went there who were straight up supposedly standing behind Christianity, that's the tell right there. These are the type of people it's because they would not do that. They're not going to kick on back as strong. You know how they play their politics. They're not going to sit back and be like, yeah, well, I'm this way, but I do go and cut loose every once in a while down to Bohemian Grove, and we have activities like the cremation of care. No,
Well, they're two-faced. They're liars. That's, part of the reason for the Grove is they have cameras in those little cabins and stuff. And then when they do whatever they do, whether it be with little kids or male prostitutes, or whatever, then it gets videotaped. And when they need a bill passed or something done or whatever, maybe a piece of technology or a patent for something handed over, whatever the case may be that they want. They just, they go to them, kind of like the way they did with the economic hitman. They start off at lower levels, and then they work their way up to the jackals, and then the military. But first they send in their version of the economic hitman on a personal level, and that would be the guy with the videotape of him having sex with another dude, and he says, you're supposed to be some upstanding, Christian Baptist, whatever, and here you are. Really a homosexual. Not that, it shouldn't matter, but because of the way I'm usually what happens is the person that they're blackmailing has like a stance in the public eye against whatever they're doing. So if they're kitty diddling, then they're anti-kiddly diddler. in the public eye. If they're homosexual behind the scenes, they'll be, vehemently anti-gay rights and oh, God won't allow that, or anything like that.
I thought it pretty interesting that up in the hillbilly camp where all the presidents have been and all of that Grateful Dead members, MK Ultra, all of that having to be the actual Grateful Dead members who partaked in MK Ultra experiments and everything were allowed to camp in the hillbilly camp with the presidents and stuff. I thought that was pretty interesting. A little tidbit there.
Most people don't realize, dude, how much the entertainment industry is connected to that. I mean, people would be surprised. You start reading the accounts of these survivors that have been through it, and you hear names like Chris Christopherson and others in the entertainment industry, and you're like, what? They're part of MK Ultra? The Grateful Dead? What? What are they doing there?
Yeah, I wonder.
It's the truth, yeah, right? But it's the truth. It's a sick reality. I'm going to cut us off because we got the break sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Final segment coming up. Final segment, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, I'm going to bring this up one more time. But over on the front of the IntelliHub, they got an article about the officer who shot that dog. And apparently this guy has a history of violence. He shot and killed a kid with Down syndrome when he was just a rookie police officer. And I guess that was cleared, too. I guess that was justified, because killing people with Down syndrome is always, easy prey. So I guess that's justified, too. But I can't watch the video or look at the pictures anymore because I admittedly... I'm getting too emotional about it, not crying like I'm getting.
Well, I tell you what, Papa. I tell you what, though. Some people are like, well, whatever. It's a dog. It's a dog. And I when people say that to me, it just cooks my can, brother. Because I'm sitting there, I'm like you. I'm sitting there thinking like, no, man, you're not understanding. Here's a person who doesn't take any consideration about inflicting pain or suffering or death on another living being. Don't make no difference whether it's a person, whether it's a dog, whether it's a cat, whatever it is. Anybody taking some kind of pride or arrogance about inflicting suffering and pain and death on any other living being, I don't give a shit what it is. I mean, honestly, excuse my language, I don't care what it is out there. If you take any pleasure or any kind of satisfaction about doing something like that, you are a turd. Flush. I mean, seriously, those types of people, there's something wrong with you. If you think like that, you really need to grasp a hold to what you're thinking and think about it and go like, really? Do I really think that inflicting suffering and pain on another living being, whether it be human, whether it be animal, whatever it is? I'm a hunter, I hunt. And that was one thing that I'm always taught straight up by my father. And, who was taught by his father and his father before him, is you never want any living being to suffer, even when you hunt. You want to make sure you got the target, you're going to take the shot, and the animal's not going to run off and suffer to death. That you're going to take the shot, it's going to kill it, it's going to be least pain as possible. You do not want to inflict that. And if you do, and you get some kind of satisfaction out of it, something is wrong for you. Just straight up, something is wrong with you. You need to seek help immediately.
Well, you see, most research has shown that, or not most, all the research into it has shown, but, it's not like that they spent bazillions of dollars studying this, but they've researched it enough that if you're willing to kill and hurt and maim an animal, you're more than likely willing to do the same thing to a human being. And this guy's a perfect example of it, case in point. He already killed a human being with Down syndrome as a rookie, so he's not going to have any qualms about taking this guy's dog out. To them, they use dogs as target practice. They laugh about it. They laugh about killing people. They don't care. I mean, they literally think of themselves as man hunters. Like, we hunt man, the ultimate game. Like, seriously, if that's how you are, if you wear one of those costumes with those little toy badges and you put on your little Batman utility belt and that's how you feel, go turn your shit in and hang up your little costume there and call it a day. Because I don't want you I don't want you to have that authority, and I don't think anybody else does either. Because that's like borderline psychotic thinking. Like you need to knock it off and like go.
Exactly. That's people just crazy. Man, I used to be into animal rights, and I was really strong in animal rights, and I was just like, the heck with people. People don't care. I mean, look at them. Look at human beings. And that was my mentality during that time period of animal rights. Then I came to this conclusion. I was like, if you can't get people to care about each other, their own species, there's no way they're going to care about animals or the environment around them or anything, And I'm not a hippie, and I'm not, I'm a little bit hippie, actually. I'll admit that. But, I'm not like the straight up hippie and everything. I'm a realist, and I do care about the environment, and I do care about people, and I do care about all the animals on the planet. I don't think anything should suffer. I mean, to even think that that's okay is something wrong with people, and you can't do that. But
to think it's okay to kill the animal, I bet you, maybe the guy, and I don't know if this is true, but maybe the guy is one of those people that thinks, well, animals don't have souls anyway. Well, it doesn't give you the right to, inflict that type of pain on another living creature or the people that love it. I mean, it's how would you like it if they did it to you? You wouldn't, But see, they're just not trained to think like that. They're not trained to think, dude. I mean, fact is, and you can go look this up, and we'll have to close with this because I can hear the end of the show music coming up behind us. But the fact is that police departments hire police officers now, and I don't know how many across the board are doing this, but many are, that have an IQ lower than 100. So that way they have a smaller turnover rate because dumber people are more likely to follow rules and do whatever they're told. And that's the sad case that we have today. We need to reverse it. So, cops, pull your heads from your butts and stop being over-violent a-holes. Okay, we need you to come back down to planet Earth from planet Neptune. Ken, thanks for hanging out tonight, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. We love you all. Don't buy into the fear porn. Solutions to our problems are an inside job. We're out of here.